Morning everybody, it's Chris here from Serene Education with the 4 majors analysis update for the 12th of October 2011. Hi guys, just going to be going over the 4 majors this morning, starting with the usual pairs, Euro, US dollar first. Let's have a look and see what's happening on the daily time frame. Very indecisive this morning, and yesterday's candle was just as indecisive. Very classic spinning top after upside movement. We know that 700 happens to be a very strong pivot area, so a clear ceiling level now happened in the past, not so long ago, and yet again 2 prior days also stalling at this particular level. So ideally, if we were to see any further upside movement, then definitely 13700 has to be breached, and we need to see a definite bullish closure above that level. At the moment now we're coming unstuck, and so we could see likely further consolidation at this area. So yesterday's trading range, very small, very apprehensive, trading at the upper end of the wick, which is still good, and it looks like this morning Asian market session trading slightly lower, well, indecisive yet again. However, the lows still slightly higher than yesterday's lows, so a reattempt, looking very tentatively, probably retesting that 13700 today. If that's the case, then ideally what we want to do is see price really push above the 13700. Otherwise, we're just going to see another reattempt, and possibly another failed reattempt at today's high. News today that could possibly swing things. What do we have? Euro, not really much. We have French CPI month-to-month figures this morning, and it was negative. The previous figure was 0.5%. They're expecting a forecast of 0.3, so not so much of a drop, but they were still expecting a drop, but it came out quite negative at negative 0.1, so a little negative than they expected. Then they also had the German WPI month figures. This was higher than the previous figure, so very indecisive. The figures that are coming out of Europe at the moment now. Industrial production month-on-month figures are coming out late this morning at 10 a.m. GMT, and they are expecting a negative figure, obviously. The previous figure was 0.9%. They're expecting a forecast of negative 0.8, so a definite drop there. Other than that, later this evening at 7:30 p.m. GMT, we have ECB President Tricker speaking, so not much else on the front for that. However, we have the very important news coming out on the US market later this evening at 6:20 GMT. It's the FOMC meetings minutes. Now these are very important. It goes into a detailed record of the FOMC's most recent meetings, providing in-depth insight into the economic and financial conditions that influence their vote on where to set interest rates. Very important. Okay, we all know that interest rates are huge movers in the market, and any news relating to that does reflect very greatly in the market, so we need to be aware of that. So if you are doing nothing this evening, have a sit down, watch it, see what the outcome is. So 6:20 p.m. GMT this evening, we have the US FOMC meeting minutes. Very important. Other than that, what we want from this pair today is we want to see a breach above 13700. Look into our small time frames. Let's look at the hourly. You can see a bit of red creeping in, but you'll notice here at 13700, very strong ceiling level. The previous high was slightly lower than the one that we're seeing at the moment, so we could be seeing a consolidation, or a bearish consolidation at the top end of this resistance level. But you can see noticeably to the upside, we're having higher swings dictating price action, and just recently even stronger. At the moment now, we had a classic support area being found here at roughly the 5800 mark support. So ideally, we're going to see any further downside movement, then the 5800 has to be breached to the downside. But then we also likely to come into contact with the upside trend. So definite break below 500 here would possibly definitely give us reading of negativity. So we have the red arrow, red candles, but the CTC is still blue. On the other side, still dictating because we are still trading an upside trend. We haven't broken a prior low. So that's very, very important. You can see our 4-hour chart here, for example, the daily pivot area in play, very consolidative against the upper end of this trend here. We need to see a definite break above 13,700, which we'll see 13,750 is our support, or sorry, resistance 2, and our resistance 1 well above the institution moving average. Below that, I mentioned that we have a support 1 here at 13,700. We have support 2 at 13,100, and then support 3 down here below 13,900. So, got to see price breaking over 30 to see any further extensions high. You can see here a lot of wicks to the upside of here, so very indecisive. We've seen prior we had a lot of wicks before we saw this massive sell-off. We are working our way towards this institution moving average here. We could see potentially further downside. CTC is blue, however, but in order to us to see any further progression higher, we do need to see price making a reattempt at 13,700 and breaking that level. Psychologically, we have seen a ceiling level here, and if we don't see a break above 13,700, then the likelihood is we're going to see further consolidation with an outlook of bearishness because we still haven't broken the institution moving average to the upside. Next up is sterling against US dollar, good old cable. Yesterday's candle bearish engulfing from the previous day, so a bit of indecision or negativity creeping into the market after this upside pull. We do know there is support here, primarily because we have a higher swing and we had a nice little shelf support area being forged here. A lot of hammers hammering out this bottom. Price failed to break and closed lower than this level here at 15,300, and we had a bullish up candle engulfing all of this, and we saw progression higher. CTC is still negative on this pair. We are in a downside, but we are in a downside consolidation range. Price is trading below this morning on the Asian market session, trading below the daily pivot. So as long as price is trading below this area, then there's a likelihood for further downside outcome. We do need to see price trading above this area to see further extensions higher. Failure to see extensions higher going into the latter part of this evening will dictate that we're possibly looking for further downside movement on this pair. So got to see the pivot being breached today. Otherwise, we could see further consolidation to the downside. So here at 15,666, we do need to see that being breached today. Notice we're still trading below all the moving averages, and the CTC is still red across the board for this time frame. We do, however, have a blue arrow candle saying heads up, there's potential for further consolidation to present itself. And if we do see a break above the pivot, then ideally we'd like to see 15,700, 7,500 being our next target, or the first target would likely be the higher end of these two prior candles. Yeah, price failed to break below, above those. So at 15,600, first target, second target 15,700 for this pair. So if we work into our intraday, if we look at our hourly, for example, I've plotted all the daily pivots. You can see that noticeably having lower swings going into today's session. Asian market session, we've seen slight fall, but we've noticed we have seen price finding support at the S1 here at 15,400 and bouncing higher to the underside. CTC on this time frame is negative, so be aware of that. And you can see that we are testing that trend line. There's a lot of wicks to the upside dictating price actions lower, exhaustion, and sure enough, this candle now that's forming on the hourly is testing that area, that trend line downside. But we have bounced. Ideally, we'd like to see price trading above, as I mentioned, that 15,600 mark to give us an idea that we could see target 1, which is resistance 1 here at 15,500, and resistance 2, which is at 15,700, being our targets for the remainder of today. Failure to do that and break below that, above this area here at 1561, would indicate that we're seeing possibly further bearish sentiment to the downside. And we should be looking at S1, where we had the bounce prior at 15,400 as our first target, which will be the institution. Below that, there's a small trading range to S2, which is 15,100, and S3 down here at 54,100. A lot more air, a lot more breathing space. Break below that, then ideally we could be looking at way down here at the bottom end of these wicks here at 15,290 as our potential long-term trade intraday. So Got to get above 1560-100 to be classified as bullish, potential bullish upside. Failure to do so, consolidate under the underside of this trend here, or this pivot area, could see a likelihood of further bearishness because the CTC is still looking negative for this pair. Next up is US dollar Swiss franc Swissy, and you can see we've seen some resistance creeping into this particular pair over the past couple of days. Very indecisive. We saw some highs being reached. Price support here, very strong support and resistance level just recently here at 93.50. Price really just barely touched it. Very consolidative at the top end, and you can see that we've seen a bearish engulfing, and it's taken us down to price support and resistance levels that we've seen in the past couple of weeks. Below this, you can see that the daily pivot now is in play. We've seen price yesterday pushing higher on the upper end, finding a bit of support. And this morning's trading session on the Asian market going into European session has been very small, very indecisive. We want to see a decision candle, and if we are to see further progressions lower, then obviously we need to see price trading below at least these two lows here of the candle. So ideally a break below what's this, 90.03 I think it is. So the bottom of those candles will be 90.03 to see any further progression lower. CTC, however, because we are an extended upside, blue across the board. So until we see a definite break of this downside trend, then we're going to see further consolidation to the upside. If we look at the hourly chart, for example, I've plotted all the pivots, our daily pivots, green one being the daily pivot itself, and you can see that price we have been almost squeezing, and these lows getting smaller, but you can see from the high we've seen a bounce, and if I just project from the high to the low here, we've had a bounce up to 38.2 fib, and we've seen a noticeable resistance level at the 91.1 resistance at the 38.2. It is, however, trading on the upper side of that pivot. So if we can find support here, you can see the swing higher, then we could see a potential bounce higher. A clear break below above the 38.2 would take us to S1, which is 91.3, S2, which is here just above the 91.75 mark, and ultimately our top goal here, which is S3, which is way up here. Sorry, these are all resistance, apologies. R3 here at 92.70. So it's got to find support above this pivot area before we see any further extensions higher. Ideally a break below, above 911. We clearly look for potential upside movement. Just be aware, because we are in a downtrend, institution moving average is still above us. A failure to find support at this area over here and the 23.6, then ultimately we're looking for our S1 at 903 and S2 here at 89.80, and I think S3 is way down there at the 88.80 mark. So be aware of that. First thing today Chief needs to do is find support above this pivot area here. Failure to do so would see further extensions lower. First stop would be the S1 area and S2 down. If we do find a bounce down and it pushes high on this trend line, this intraday trend line, then we should be looking for those further upside movements. Last pair of the day today is US dollar Japanese yen. Let's have a look at the daily time frame. Very indecisive. Lots of spinning dojis and spinning tops over the past week or so. It's still negative. You can see we're still seeing the lower highs. Dictating price still falling against, with the major overall trend, but you can see noticeably here we had a price support found at 76.10, and we are pretty much going sideways. It's been very indecisive. We had this bearish engulfing candle, and we thought, well, we could see potentially 76.10 being breached quite soon. However, that's not materialized at all. It's kind of just braked, and you can see it's hugging this pivot area, major support area through here. We've got to see a bearish engulfing to see further extensions lower to at least the lows that we saw prior at 76.10. At the moment now, there's too much at the top end to look for as a potential breakout. But if we're going to see any further upside movement, then we want to see price pretty much tackling this bearish engulfing. So anything above 7,700, the 7,700 mark here would see further extensions higher. But until then, it's looking pretty bleak. CTC on the top is still red across the board, so we are seeing a slight consolidation range against the major trend to the downside. If you look at the hourly chart, for example, this is just noise. It just scares me. the hourly, because of the small this very negative this very small trading range, the pivots and everything else, the pivot 1s and S1s, R1 levels are all going to be quite close together because of that. You can see the pivot here, S1 is R1 is quite close. They're very, very close to each other. So not really gaining not a hell of a lot of momentum. So if anything's the case, we need to see R1 or S1 being breached before we see any potential for further downside. And even then, S2 and R2 are quite close, and you're probably looking for a break of those areas there to see slight more movement. But you can see once you get the trigger signal, are you getting enough here to look for potential targets? If you're scalping, 5-minute charts, yeah, maybe, but other than that, very, very indecisive. So at the moment now, going clearly sideways, no trade. I can't see any trades on this particular pair, so I won't even go any further. So that's it, guys. Hope you have a fantastic trading day. Please make sure that you follow the rules of the CTC if you are trading it, and you back it up with sound money management rules. It's so important to get that right. Other than that, have a fantastic trading day. Be aware this evening, FOMC meetings. This is the minutes relating to interest rates decisions. Very, very important. That's at, I think it's 6. Bear with me for a moment, I'll find out. It is at 7 p.m. GMT. So be aware of it. Factor it in. We could see prices going sideways before this news. So very, very volatile before the news. So don't trade before and after the news announcement. So if you're not in anything, please, if you are in anything, please make sure that you are literally putting your stops quite close, or you're getting out of your trades by that stage, because we're going to expect a lot of volatility at the news announcement. That's it. Take care. Have a fantastic trading day and trade serenely.